Welcome to Healthcare Training Leader, the podcast dedicated to helping healthcare practices make more money, be compliant, and run more smoothly. Our mission at Healthcare Training Leader is to help you be more successful. Every day, we come in and think about how we can help you dig your way through the complexities of regulation, management, and reimbursement. Listen here for the most up-to-date information when it comes to healthcare coding, billing, compliance, credentialing, enrollment, practice management, and so much more. Enjoy.
So today we're going to talk about how you really look to someone who's interviewing with you. You may think you appear a certain way, but you may not. What would an excellent applicant opt to work for your group? What makes your practice so special that they'd want to work for you versus someone else and then stay there once they've gotten there? We're also going to talk about the benefits of using emotional intelligence, and that's on every level of human resources with every job and every department, right? We could also use EI to help retain employees that are proud to be in your practice and how to correlate that all and to keep your sanity. And that begins with reminding of ourselves of those great ones that we already have that you may not be noticing. Remember that the best employees aren't even looking for a job. They're often recruited from current positions. So if you really like people that you have, let them know that. I'm sure you have in the recent past. And once in a while, we do get that great person and we want to hold on to them. And we want them to want to be in our practice in the most productive and positive way. We have to look at the standards as we're setting things. Sometimes we just need a warm body to be in that seat. And a lot of times we're desperate for anyone that wants to apply for that position. But we also have to think about how we're setting these standards and what we're really looking for, because if we get the right person in, then that's the best fit. They're more apt to stay, right? I remember one time I got a resume from someone and the first sentence was, "I can do my job and more." And she was amazing. She could do her job and more. And she was one of those two people that actually I knew right away. And I remember telling her when I was interviewing her, you know, you're absolutely perfect, but they say never to hire the first person. So I want you to go home, clean your scrubs, because I'm going to be calling you in a few days. And indeed, I did. And she was still at that practice many years later. So we have to think about tuning into our emotional intelligence and really using that and tapping into it. What levels we're really looking for. And we have to have emotional intelligence with the industry that we're in. We have to have that. It's vital, right? And a lot of other industries work with performance and EQ as well. For example, after supervisors in a manufacturing plant receive training in emotional intelligence competencies, they learned how to listen better and help employees resolve problems on their own. Formal grievances reduced from 15 to 3 a year. Would that not be amazing? It's because people appreciated each other more and they understood what each other was doing, and they were more comfortable in their own skin, and they were able to reflect and speak more freely because they'd had that training. It was wonderful. And the plant actually exceeded productivity goals by $250,000 because these things happen. Everybody was just working so much better and more streamlined. And also no hiring and refiring people stayed. So people were working more efficiently and effectively. And at L'Oreal, on an annual basis, salespeople selected on emotional intelligence sold more with a net revenue increase of $2.5 million. Now take that and transfer that to patient compliance and your patient collections with financial collections, things like that, how much better people can work. And think about for retention, staff selected on the basis of emotional competence also had 63% less turnover in the first year. That would be amazing because, again, we're all comfortable where we ended up. There's more introductions, and we'll go through some more of those things as well to how to make that happen for you. The EQ quotient really plays into that recruitment process, and it carries over into every interaction we have. It ends up with reduced turnover, higher quality of care, increased satisfaction, and also identifying leadership characteristics. So if people want to move on, they hopefully can within your practice, right? There are many, many benefits to doing this. And again, even though it's vital that we have people with compassion in our industry, we often don't screen for it. A lot more people are doing behavioral interviews now to kind of see where people stand, and we'll talk about some of those things. But the more we are prepared to handle situations helps us with those daily interactions and decisions that people have to make every day with their job. And if they're more prepared, it's easier to do, right? Determining their aptitude for self and social awareness also helps us find those applicants who have a natural compassion. And we want that. We want a natural compassion and devotion to each of our roles. Since we're dealing with patients, we know it's different than any other industry. And do we want it all? Yeah, I want it all. And I go for it, because if we go for it all, then we come really close at times. Staffing with emotional intelligence is very interesting. 69% of healthcare leaders hire for a cultural fit. Only 13% base it on previous experience, and technical competencies and other skills were prioritized below these characteristics. 40% felt that communication was the most important factor for a positive organizational culture. And that really is true. And actually, a Willis Tower Watson survey suggested that employers consider their best investment was in creating the workspace that best hires would want to work in versus having them come into your culture. It moves along. The culture is constantly changing. We want it to be, again, where people want to come to every day. If you feel good walking in that door every day, why wouldn't you keep doing that? Positive communication is what creates that culture and what keeps the staff. So thinking about that interview, because again, that leads to the best people and first impressions. And remember too that we are animals. We have instincts. Keep that in mind. There are some people that you see and you know right away. There are some people that send off bells and whistles, and some people you have to look at a little bit more. Remember too that as people are interviewing with you, they're interviewing you as well. They're deciding if they want to be where you are and if they want to be a part of that practice. So you're not the only one interviewing. So I say location, location, location. Make it comfortable, offer water, offer coffee. It's amazing how breaking bread can really make someone feel a little less held back. And you want people to offer information freely as soon as possible. You don't want them to be stressed, right? You want them to be very comfortable. So allow the applicant to see the interview as a warm welcome instead of an interrogation. We're not just going to ask about your experience. We're going to welcome you and tell you what it's like here, right? And think about the goal. The goal is for the applicant to speak 80% of the time and the interviewer to speak only 20% of the time. Because remember, we're listening to answers. We're telling them about the practice, but we're listening as well. And a truly confident and prepared candidate is more apt to stay with your support and training. So you want to know, and you want to be sure that they know exactly the level of what you need and the depth of their knowledge. The job description can help with that. But as you inquire about specific tasks, listen for what may typically follow within that process. For example, I went to an interview where I was asked, can you do pro formas? Yeah, I can do pro formas. I was doing 3 to 5 page pro formas, a 2 to 3 year lookout, forecast, depending upon the specialty, things like that. But what they were talking about were 80-page pro formas. And it was essentially the business plan with the entire pro forma written out in verbal as much as the graphs and the schedules. So I was ready for it, but I was not ready for what was handed to me. They did not ask that specificity, and I did not declare it. So when I got it, I learned how to do the 80-page formats for the pro formas. But you have to know exactly the length and the depth of everyone's knowledge. So listen to those other things about processes that connect everything. And your question are key to connecting. As they answer, try to triangulate their responses. Go a little deeper and ask, why so? Or tell me more. Or what made this important to you? And as layers of anticipated questions are asked, I often find that the first time you ask something, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. And the second time, they go a little deeper. And the third time, they tell you what's really in there because there's nothing else left. You've gotten down to the real reason. So, for example, you say, tell me a time when you experienced failure and how you took that and how you changed the outcome. And I could think of a couple of things that I did that I know I could have done better and how I changed the outcome either later on or fixed it right after I made the mistake. But again, you may go deeper into the psychology of, okay, what made you realize you were doing it wrong? What happened afterwards and what was the result? And dig deep. And if they want to tell you, they will. And they should be able to tell you pretty freely. And also consider, I used to have this just as a basic comfort level on the interview. I had 1 to 5. How comfortable was I with that person? How much did I think they would literally fit in the culture? And also ask about, who do you see sitting in that chair? Sometimes it's just that basic instinct kicking in. I've seen that with a couple of people that I've hired. You could just tell right away that they fit in. And a physician actually once said that to me. Who do you see sitting in that chair? And it really, really makes sense. And if you want to make someone feel incredibly, incredibly welcome and important on the first day, remember first impressions are everything. A physician's personalized welcome to the practice. Hello, welcome to the practice. This is when we started. We try to get great, compassionate care and offer that to our staff as well. And remember that continued presence is always the most impressive and positive move. We all want to feel a reason for being there. And knowing that the doctors and everybody is carrying out beautiful care and we're supporting that, there's a real value to my position there, and that makes a difference. And it makes every single person special. And remember, as you're the person is taking in everything as the new hire. They're taking in the wallpaper, they're taking in everyone's names and all the information that you already know, all that between the lines stuff, they're taking that in. So give them time to take that in and give good training. And look at the core of the person. We all make mistakes, right, as we're coming in. But again, we're looking at their approach, we're looking at their demeanor and initiative, and that's the emotional intelligence. You can teach anyone a task, but their comfort level and their compassion is pretty evident right away, and demeanor does not change. So again, when we feel a purpose, we stay. In a recent survey, about 9,000 professionals were asked which of the following categories contributed the greatest to their happy workplace. And a large majority were saying they were somewhat satisfied with their jobs, but there are a lot of negatives with how they relate to their work. So the top thing that we will see is the meaning. If people feel a meaning for what they're doing, then they're more apt to stay. And again, we're in no better industry for this. We heal people, and it's hard to forget when you do that. We get close to our patients for a reason because we have that compassion and that care. And when we're truly making a difference in someone's life, that's really good self-affirmation for anyone working in the office. Now you can see that autonomy, someone being able to work independently, what they feel they're contributing comes in next. The pay is certainly a big help, but I think we've all learned from COVID. And what is more important is a work balance life. The work balance life is the number one. That gives meaning to your job because you're able to balance it with your work life. And the opportunity. Sometimes we want opportunity. Sometimes we're happy in a position. And those that are looking for opportunity, that's important, but it's not the top thing. So I say with delegation, as you're doing that, offer education because people want to move up, right? And we want to help them move up. So when you're delegating something to someone, offer that education along with it. We can offer a lot. There are a lot of resources. You can do webinars, you can do on-site, you can send people to conferences. I think on-site training for the whole staff works really well because everyone sees it. Everyone hears different things and they all relate to each other at the end and say, okay, so what did you learn from that? Or, when you can't remember something and you're looking back at your notes and you're thinking, what did that mean? You're able to look at your neighbor and say, well, what did she mean? Or what did he mean when they said that? What did that mean? And you know how in a classroom, when you have this nice bonding, that works well with your learning too, with your in-house training. People bond, they reference each other. Excuse me. You can also record these sessions. So any people that you hire in the future, you can use that for the training. And it doesn't matter if there's 5 people or 500, trainers will come in and do a lot. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can do some role playing, and it's okay to laugh at yourself a little bit and understand and appreciate each other's roles more. I like doing things with the doctors and the front desk. Why does it take so long to get to the back? And I have the physician call in, and they're actually the receptionist. And I have the front desk person call in like they're making an appointment. And then the physician sees what the receptionist has to go to as they're trying to place that appointment and all the questions that asked and all the times we're being put off or rescheduled. And they can actually see what we're going through. And we have a lot of fun with it. And then everybody understands where everyone's coming from. And it's okay to laugh at yourself a little bit. It helps us relax a little bit, appreciate each other. And that's emotional intelligence. Also, establish those healthy boundaries and expectations. And I say healthy, not stressful, but healthy. So informing the priority level is essential, immediately followed with what do you need? Because my job is to help you do your job as much as possible. If you give them delegation and don't give them any education or information to do it, It's impossible. You're setting them up for failure. And remember those teachers that were the hardest ones, but the best teachers? They were the best ones we had. They were fair, but they were hard, and they set those expectations and boundaries, and we met them because the reward was we learned a lot, we did well in the class, and we were recognized for it. And someone who's seeking that professional career will welcome that conversation to improve. And if they feel that support and help them move forward, they're more apt to stay. Why would they go anywhere else if they think they can move forward with you? Think about your personnel policies. We write them, we tell them about them, we talk about them when they're first hired or maybe when there's an issue. But in the meantime, we can't assume that bad things aren't happening just because our staff doesn't tell us about them. We have to protect the staff, right? So policies built with that support and empathy really help with the valued employees that reciprocate their appreciation with loyalty, and never doubt that loyalty factor. It really plants those seeds for retention. Showing respect for all with gender identity and expression is very important. Be absolutely current with checking your local, state, and federal guidelines to gain that understanding. We want every single person to feel like they're 100% protected and respected, everybody. So include those definitions, cover transition plans, especially regarding restroom and locker room accessibilities, health insurance, harassments, and even dress codes. Address everything. We also want to create a safe workplace and secure office, and that includes possible violence and infection exposure. We want everyone to feel 100% safe. Another thing is bereavement leave. If you give them a buffer day, it really allows them an extra day to regroup and get back and get used to going back to work. You'll not only find a more productive employee, but someone who's able to lick their wounds and come back and have that just extra day so they can get used to a new way of life and just a little more acceptance before they have to come back. Another thing is an employee assistance program. If you're able to, it's a wonderful offering. You can be very transparent with offering these things because you want people to grab onto them. Not everybody's going to come out and say, I'm having trouble doing my job. But if you recognize it and you work with them and you help them get better, they really appreciate that. Some of them are afraid to take that first step. Also, have these programs be no longer than 60 or 90 days. If someone's going to get better, they're going to do it in a few weeks. They're not going to wait because they're making that decision. I mean, they're going to get better. I'm going to look for another job. So don't let it lag on, especially if somebody's not pulling their weight because everyone else has to, and then they don't like it. And then your good people leave. We do not want that, right? Also, reimbursing for volunteerism. You can have a project where everybody does a couple of days something and everybody is reimbursed for it on the weekend, helping with Habitat or some other organization where you're helping distribute food, something like that. Or you can give somebody 1 or 2 days a year to do volunteerism, and then everyone chooses their own thing that they want to do. But especially with younger generations, that's very popular. With your wellness benefits, your employees learn those healthy habits. We know all those things like cooking contests, healthy benefits, get rewards for gym memberships, all that kind of thing. But also think about the mental health, especially now. If you have a therapist that is on your plan that you can sign up and you can have people aware that that person is available for them, then they can go to that person and you not worry about the pride that they know they're accessible, they're easy to find, and people can access them on their own. But offering that and showing that as a good, healthy benefit will allow people to approach it a little bit more. And again, you don't have to let pride get in the way. My favorite is the anniversary day. For every year that they're there past the first year, they get an extra day. And that really helps keep people on because after a while, they have a lot of days. We all need a reprieve. We really do. In a lot of offices now, everything is income generating space, but you have to have a break room. You have to have a room with something other than a tiny little refrigerator and a counter and a microwave. Have a place where people can sit. There has to be just not a walkthrough. And for outside, if you have a walking path or a picnic table, 10 minutes of sunshine really makes a big difference. We're made up more than our occupations, right? We have to protect ourselves. We have an office that we can go to, but not everybody has that. So we have to have a nice space where people can go to. And think about bringing out the best in your staff. We use those hormones, right? The serotonin, that's the mood stabilizer. If you have a walking path or an area outside to sit, that kind of balances running and walking. oxytocin, the love hormone, and you could get that by offering a sincere compliment to someone. When you see them smile and recognize that, that's a wonderful thing. Letting them know how they helped. And endorphins bring out all the best and worst jokes. I cannot tell a joke to save my life, but if you can tell a joke, it really just get people to laugh. It's a wonderful thing. And that releases the endorphins. Dark chocolate does that as well. Dopamine, you can use chocolate for that as well. That's the rewarding one. If you complete a task, self-care activities, and eating healthy food. And again, when we're in the office doing a really good job helping patients, that's rewarding all on its own.
Like what you hear? Subscribe now to the Medical Management Expert Podcast subscription and gain access to exclusive content, bonus episodes, and so much more. Now, back to the show.
So the difference between a challenge and stress, good stress is very interesting in that a work environment is where pressure on employees are relevant to their abilities and resources. So it's the amount of control they have over their work and the support that they receive. Again, it's relevant to their abilities and resources. So the concept of stress of work is often confused with a challenge, but we know that they're not the same. Because being challenged is when you feel really good about something, you're sinking your teeth into a project, you have everything you need to get the job done. And it also invites us to learn. It's psychologically and physically challenging, and you can be creative, and we feel energized and satisfied. But challenges are an essential ingredient to healthy and work productive at work, right? But a great example but a bad stress is when you're feeling bad about it. You don't have what you need. You don't have the time you need. You don't have the tools you need or the education. We want everything to be a good stress. We want it to be where when you go to bed at night, you feel like you've been challenged all day. You worked really hard. You worked really hard with that one patient or the doctor or the staff or whatever to get it done. And you feel real success. And it's a delicious type of tired versus just being exhausted and worrying about the next day. The peer group and support that you have from your staff and from your coworkers is really essential. Every staff member counts towards contributing towards that and to the culture and retention of employees. I just did a workshop in Georgia with a health system, and one person stood up and she said, I just want to say that I've been here 2 months and it's a hard job, but without the support and help from my peers and my coworkers, I will be here forever because I feel such great support and we really work so well together as a team. And that's what you want. You want that positive stuff. You also want to promote mentorship, peer support, and trust. And trust is something that's gained. It's not something that's automatically that happens. But think about it. Do you have an organizational mentorship program or even through your specialty group? It could even be as simple as somebody who's helping somebody get trained, and they're the ones that are helping someone with their job description and getting them signed off so they're comfortable with somebody, right, with their job. But associate with your peers as much as possible through medical managers organizations, your Chamber of Commerce, and other organizations that make you better as a whole, because then you're able to offer that support as well. I remember coming back from meetings and saying to my staff, as usual, we're doing things right. I see that we're doing everything right. And I would give an example of that. When you get feedback, please obtain feedback and act upon it. And do those exit interviews. People will let things out, right? And that's that trust that hopefully people will tell you something, but as they're leaving, they're more apt to let it out. And if you have somebody that's disgruntled and you're just finding out something new, it might be regretful because you didn't know about it before, but at least you can use that and move forward with your current coworkers, right? We're usually very familiar with our coworkers' attitudes, habits, and some beliefs and behaviors. And this is where all the common courtesies come into play and awareness. We all work with each other and we work with that support, and we're all different, and that's okay, but we all need that affirmation as well. And a mentor could be a really good help. Employees that feel appreciated are more apt to stay. It's true. And as we're giving someone a chance, talking about that delegation, for example, you don't want someone to say, you don't want to go up to someone and just say, I don't have time for this. Can you please do this for me? It shows that their time has little value because you don't have time, so you're giving it to them. It's like you have to say why. I hear you're great with spreadsheets, and if you did this every month, it would really help us close out the month end and really help us decipher what's going on. You want to bring out that initiative and let them sink their teeth into something that they are naturally good at, right? So you want to set a tone of respect when you're allocating. Explain why they are the perfect person for the job. Again, I've heard you did this in your last job, and I've heard you were really good at it. Would you be willing to help me every month and do this? And when you say thank you, be as specific as to why you're thanking them. Keep in mind that the thing that people hear that like, excuse me, the two things that people like to hear the most are their name and thank you. So you could go up to someone and say, Susan, thank you so much for doing this. It really helped with our efficiency. And now the doctors can see these numbers very clearly now. That's beautiful. And on the other side, the staff that feel overloaded and unappreciated do not stay. So before getting efficient, we have to prioritize our effectiveness. You can do things quickly, but that doesn't mean you're doing it well. If you're doing it efficiently, you're doing it quickly and well, but that doesn't mean that it has the effectiveness down the line. For example, if someone makes an appointment and they don't get the insurance information incorrectly, then what happens is the claim doesn't get paid, and down the line, the billing person has to work extra hard to get that paid. And the people that make up for everyone else's mistakes quickly learn to resent this. So if someone's making mistakes and they're just being really quick, look at the effectiveness of that as well. This is where the teamwork and respect for each person's role comes in. I do mine to the fullest, and then you do yours, and we all work together. We don't want that imbalance, because the people that make up for the other person's work end up leaving, and that's not what you want. So a job well done. You want awards and affirmation for everybody. I know in the recent past, you've been doing that a lot to show how you appreciate it, but now you've done it. Now you have the best employees. Let's assume you have the best employees in the world. You've gotten them in. You spent thousands of dollars to get them in, recruiting and training and all this other stuff. But then we don't acknowledge them. And we have to do that, because once we've gotten them, we really want to let them know how valued they are, right? So close your eyes and envision your employees and think about your high quality staff. Who's done something above and beyond their station that should be acknowledged? Why wait? It's always good to reward. It's never a bad time to recognize that. And while you're at it, recognize those people that come in quietly and do their jobs. Just because somebody makes noise doesn't mean they're doing a job better. And just because they're getting attention doesn't mean that they deserve more attention, right? These are the people that you want to keep, the people that are quiet. They come in, they're dependable, they don't go out sick a lot, they just come in very unnoticed. And if there's no consequences or rewards, that really results in a very stagnant workforce with no motivation. People need to move on. They want to move forward. And why should I work harder when my coworker does not and they still get a raise, right? That's not good for morale. Rewards can be very simple, as you probably learned as well. A friend of mine inherited a practice where it was just brutal, and she really had to bring up the morale. And with every meeting, she had a little gift at the end that she bought on her own, and it became an incredibly dedicated team. They had a raffle at the end of every meeting, and these are people that weren't getting raises, but because they saw that she was so authentic and she was so dedicated to making their lives better, it really brought out the loyalty factor, because she was there for them. And the best CEOs will tell you that they serve their staff and their patients and their doctors. That's what they're there for. When you show authenticity, that really makes a difference. And on a daily level, that happens. And when big events happen, your staff really notices that. So think about what you've done to help them be recognized. You can make it personal. Everybody's talking about the shortages now. You don't have to worry about those shortages, right? Because you can go to a local restaurant, you can go to a local bowling alley, you can go to a movie theater, you can go to a local art store or a gallery, something like that. Make it personal for something they like. Why would they seek another job if you're meeting their personal desires and leading the life that they choose? Getting rid of toxic people is essential. You saw in the description how to fire toxic people and bad people. This is really about handling people. If there's a little bit of office gossip, that's natural, but a little bit becomes a big thing and it becomes harmful, intimidating, and it's separative. You don't want that. We all end up addressing these situations one way or another. You really want to do it sooner rather than later, because usually it's when a good person leaves that you say, well, I really have to address this. You don't want those people to leave, right? And be very clear with your expectations as to behavior, because that will truly set things up as to how people behave and how they react to that. And it can be approached on an individual basis as well as as a group. And be transparent as you can with changes, big and small. That breeds fear and gossip. So you don't want that. You want to be very open. And if you can't talk about something, say, this is not a conversation we can have right now, but I promise you, as soon as I know more and I can tell you more, I will. But everything is good. Be very reassuring. Be as transparent, especially with staff changes, because people get very afraid and they start looking for a job if they think they're going to be fired. So again, that transparency really helps. If you post statuses and forecasts of projects and events for everyone to see, like in the break room, everybody knows where they stand and they can talk about it. It also invites them to become part of the process. It also endorses a healthy work environment, and then your best want to stay. Maya Angelou used to say about gossip, I'm not in it. And I love that. If you really want to know where your people stand, use an emotional intelligence to take each employee's emotional temperature. You can design opportunities that allow each person to anonymously express how they feel about the atmosphere. So what you can do is ask them about how they feel about things. You want to design opportunities that allow each person to anonymously express how they honestly feel about the atmosphere. It tells you how they feel about their work, about their coworkers, and about their future. And any gathering of information also confirms the positive things as well. So think about some questions. You don't want to take any more than 10 to 12 minutes of their time on this. And they should show how comfortable they really are in their role. So you can give an example such as, what kind of emotions do you feel at work? And you can give 10 emotions and they circle the top 5. Now, these emotions can be stressed, happy, frustrated, motivated, resentful, confident, angry, depleted, satisfied, depressed, compassionate, sad, nervous, tired, lucky, worried, or content. And look at what a range that is. It's beautiful and it lets people choose exactly how they're feeling. Another one is, how do they feel about their work in relation to their capabilities? Match to qualifications. I love my job. Hopefully it'll balance out. I'm only here for the benefits. I need more training. I have a lot more to offer if I'm asked. Think about all these things that you can glean from your employees, and it lets you know how things are going with each department, and then you can approach as you need it. You don't want to do this just twice a year. You can do this continually with a department each week, that kind of thing. And that way, as new people come in, you can see how trends are happening. If somebody is doing a lot of gossip or being very dangerous or harmful to that department, you can see it if somebody's coming in and they're not good right away. You can really tell. And you can ask questions about leadership too, about, is your boss effective? Not at all. Needs more work. I don't even know who my boss is. You'd be surprised at some of these answers. And the next step, of course, is to take action, which everyone always watches you to do. So ask these questions, but take action. Your best staff will admire you for it and they will stay. And that's what we want. It's a win-win situation. With approaching conflict, that can be very hard as well, but it helps you retain your employees. No one is perfect and we're only human, right? So it's important for people to accept that and allow others to see us as that as well. If we make a mistake, do not let pride get in the way. Whether it's with a patient or staff or physician, stepping back and admitting you made a mistake and wanting to move forward is never a bad thing. And then what matters is how we handle it from that point on. We don't want to blame other people for our mistakes, and we allow ourselves to be honest with each other. And again, we're listening and receiving information in a productive way. It may be hard at first, but everybody's really great when you get through it. They really do. And utilizing their input really helps a lot too. I think the scariest kind of disagreement is the unspoken one, because it sits there, nobody talks about it, and it just gets worse. And your good people leave because they can find a job anywhere. So what you need to do is approach it. Again, you're going to approach it now or later. You may as well be now. And everyone's opinions count. And there can be more than one answer to a problem, especially in different departments. Sometimes there's more than one answer. And we have to open up to cultural differences. We are all very similar and very different, and we can compare those and we can have a beautiful blend to a progressive solution. Everybody has something to offer, and all of our values go to the core. There's nothing right or wrong about that. That's the emotional intelligence, is taking the best thing and bringing it together. It being aware of everyone's preferences and how we can do that That's what makes the teamwork. There's give and take with everything. Different colors, different sizes. We're like a big quilt of all different fabrics, and we come together to make this beautiful blanket of care. And who would not want to stay somewhere where you're not respected, where you are respected for who you are? So if we help people meet goals, we help them set and meet goals. Sometimes people don't even know what their goals are. And this is great relationship management. Your best staff wants this. They want you to help them. And every generation has something different to offer and what they want. But everyone wants that longer time, and they want that longer time at home, more time with their family, and that work-life balance. That's number one. And certain drivers unite that all generations, such as that balancing work and life. Job security is also a main reason that all generations will join someone. If they feel secure and they're not afraid of being fired, then money is the next reason, right? So thinking about these things that everyone likes, there are also differences in generations. Baby boomers born before 1964, they may be seen as less productive, less savvy for technological things, and maybe cramping the younger generation's career progression, but they have a lot to offer, a lot of between the lines knowledge, a lot of customer service things, a lot of emotional intelligence. Just because they've been around longer, they understand a little bit more. Compensation is a key driver and more likely to cite meaningful work for them, and the convenience of the office location is huge. Generation X, 65 to 1980, they may tend to be more of a workaholic, but only 2 in 5 Gen Xers complain about their workload. They're shaping the organizations for our culture today. They are a massive amount, and they are shaping the ones today. They also like to work on meaningful projects, and it helps them thrive in their roles. Again, if people feel a mission, they're more apt to carry it out. And managing your work and life balance is recognized and more aligned of individual goals. Generation Y, the millennials, 81 to 96, it's interesting. 1 in 3 Gen Y employees are concerned that automation will replace their job, but really, they're just going to make it better. I remember hearing that too when I was in college, that everything was going to be automatic, but certain people still have to run all these processes. There's no fear. You don't have to worry. And 84% said that they were willing to consider freelance or contingent work as well. The potential for long-term care opportunities is their number one reason for joining an organization. That's the long-term and looking at a future with that organization. And Gen Zs are 97 to 2012. They're the youngest and most ethnically diverse and the largest generation in American history. They comprise 27% of our population, and they grew up with technology, the internet, social media, and sometimes that causes them to be stereotyped as antisocial, but I don't really see that. I see them, buried in their computers or in their phones, but they can be very social. You just have to tap into that. And no matter the age, your support them as they move forward is what everybody wants and what counts the most. So as a staff member, when I am covered 100% by my boss, I have no fear and watch me fly. My decisions are trusted and supported, and I'm so much more confident. Think about it. I had someone that met me. The first time she met me, she was my boss, and she said to me, my job is to make it so you can do your job better. I felt like I could take over the world. I had all the support in the world. It was wonderful, and it really helped. And we're all part of the puzzle. We have to help everybody feel a part in that unity of the healing. For example, the front desk doesn't really feel anything because they don't really feel the closure. They just feel like the hamster in the wheel. We have to point out that when they enter everything correctly, that means that everybody gets a paycheck because the claim gets paid the first time. We have to let them feel that success. They're also in control of the schedule. The nurses doing the callbacks make the patients feel better. Everyone's doing their job. We have to let them know how the role impacts the operations and how we improve together and feel their worth. Well, if you're a manager and you're checking in a patient, the staff really notices that. It's when you're at a restaurant and you see the manager bussing a table. If you're helping and supporting them, then that really helps with the loyalty factor and it helps people stay. It means the world to be appreciated, and it doesn't take much to show our appreciation, right? And recognition on any level that helps people feel a part of something bigger than themselves really helps as well. That's that good energy. That's that good stress. A constant presence of support with remote workers, sometimes that's harder to do. We have to do communication strategies. We have to think about how we're doing that and thinking about how trust really has to be built, and it starts moving us in a most positive way. When you've done it thoroughly and you have a relationship with the employee, you also gain trust. That's good training, and confidence equals trust and retention. With every office I work with, someone says we all have to have a voice, and it's really true. Everyone should have a voice. So staff needs to know that we will listen, or they will not approach us. They need to know that they'll be heard, or else their insecurities, they're just going to take them to somewhere else. So there needs to be communication. Please do not do the hallway diagnoses after you're having a meeting. Only 2 people hear it. It never carries far, and people resent it because they're not included in it. So whatever you decide in that meeting, things can go in a positive way. Try the 30-day rule. If you try something for 30 days and it doesn't work, you usually know within a couple of weeks, and you get that honest feedback. When you're planning a meeting, have staff please complete part of that agenda, because that way they're more a part of it and they get to bring up what they want to. This is their time to shine. They cannot talk any other time. They can't do it at the front desk when they're checking in a patient. And if people feel like they're making a difference in everyday activities, it really helps. We have to get that provider support and respect for all staff, even as simple as saying good morning, going up front and saying good morning. Doctors tend to be very clinically trained, and that's okay, but they have to recognize the front desk staff and everybody too. If we're all offered that, we all feel a part of that. Look at your professional certifications. They can affirm your leadership, and they can affirm someone else's growth and knowledge as well. It can be coding, it can be management, and it's really acknowledging that between the lines knowledge that everybody has, and it's so valuable. Staff training and continuing education. I once interviewed somebody who said, I'm not trained to do my job. So please give that training and continuing education, really promote that. Somebody has to do something 66 times to actually feel that they've made a difference, right? That where they remember it. But remember the progress along the way. Think of where we were a year ago and think of where you are now. So these things that we've put into our training and we put into training and protocols, we've now done them a lot of times, and hopefully we've shown how that change can be a real positive reinforcement. Sometimes people are afraid of that, so we have to show why that change really helps. If we do this, it will reduce our phone calls. If we do this, it helps us do our job quicker. And sometimes change is scary and people will leave because they don't like change. But again, if we show that incentive and that benefit out of why it will help them and make their day better, and they see that, with the front desk, it only takes a few days to do something 66 times. And that's true of nurses as well. And offer those extra incentives. It never hurts to hold that carrot out, especially this time of year when someone can make a little extra money doing something. They like that. It always helps to hold a little more out. And what about a break? That balance of life and work, really, it's the first priority. And you can't help anyone if you are burned out. Honor that vacation time for yourself and everyone. And when you're gone from work, try a boundary ritual, something that literally separates you from your work. It can be taking off your glasses, taking a shower, jumping in the pool with the kids, but something physical that makes you physically separate from work so you can let go. Breaking bread is always good to try to get along with someone if you are having trouble communicating. It makes people relax a little bit more, just like I said in the interviews. And we all have to be heard and possibly received well-meant advice to remain positive, right? And also being in the present really helps you move forward. Think about this. When we're listening to people and we're moving forward, that's resilience, that's momentum. When positive emotions are associated with performance and improvement, quality, and customer service, that's moving forward. And that's momentum. That's very good. So think about what you can do now. Think about why someone would want to work for your practice versus others. It could be the location. It could be that you're doing things that no one else does. It could be that you are right next to that person's kid's school. It could be a great offering for their potential to move forward. But why would somebody want to come to you versus someone else? It could be a wonderful staff, great doctors, anything. Cookies at 3. And think about it. Review your personnel manual with emotional intelligence. Look at things that you can do. Offer that education. Look around you. Look to your left and right. People are all around you that can help you. That's why they call us a team, and that's why we work so well together when we reinforce each other. And let each staff member know why they're valued. And please give yourself a break. Nobody's perfect, right?
Thank you for tuning in. We invite you to subscribe to this podcast or our YouTube channel, and don't forget to visit us at www.healthcare.trainingleader.com for all of your healthcare training needs.